Picture this. You're coming down the stairs, maybe it's early morning, maybe the light isn't great, and your foot lands slightly wrong. Just slightly, and for a half second, everything in your body scrambles. Your arms go out, your stomach drops, and then somehow you catch yourself. Most people have had that moment, and most people shake it off, feel a little foolish, and don't think about it again. But here's what that moment actually is. It's a warning. It's your body telling you that the system responsible for keeping you upright, your balance, your gait, your reaction time, is operating closer to its limit than you realize. And the difference between catching yourself and not catching yourself, it's smaller than most people want to believe. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65. Not car accidents, not illness, falls. And the part that doesn't get talked about enough is that most of them aren't freak accidents. They're the predictable result of walking patterns that slowly, quietly become less safe over time. On stairs, on wet floors, on uneven ground, often without the person having any idea. The good news, and this is genuinely good news, is that the way you walk is something you can change. 6 specific things. Not balance boards, not physical therapy equipment, not anything that requires a gym. Just adjustments to how you move that the people who almost never fall have already figured out. And that's exactly what we're going to cover. Most people believe falls come down to weakness, bad balance, maybe a slippery floor at the wrong moment, and they think the solution is a grab bar in the bathroom and being more careful on the stairs. That's not wrong exactly, but it's missing something much more important. Research tracking thousands of older adults over years has found that fall risk is more strongly tied to how people walk, specifically to small gradual changes in how they move, than to age itself. Read that again, not to age, to how they walk. And this changes everything because how you walk is something you can actually do something about. So what are these changes? They're subtle enough that most people never notice them happening. The stride shortens. Steps that used to cover 2 feet start covering 18 inches. As that happens, the pace slows, and the foot starts lifting less off the ground with each step. The body compensates by spending more time with both feet planted at once, unconsciously reaching for something that feels like stability. Each change on its own is nothing, but together they create a walking pattern that is actually less stable than what came before. Slower and shorter isn't safer, it's wobblier. And this is the part that catches people off guard. Walking slowly with small shuffling steps, which feels cautious, is one of the most reliable predictors of a fall, because that pattern reduces the body's ability to correct itself when something unexpected happens, when the foot catches on a carpet edge, when a wet tile is slicker than expected, when the depth of a stair step is slightly different than the ones before it. In that fraction of a second when your body needs to react, the margin for error is already gone. The CDC is clear on the scale of this. 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls every year. And once you fall, this is the part nobody tells you. Your risk of falling again doubles, not because of the injury, but because of the fear. People start moving more cautiously after a fall, which speeds up exactly the kind of pattern changes that made them fall in the first place. It's a cycle and it compounds. The people who age into their 70s and 80s without falling aren't just lucky. They move differently, specifically, and the differences are learnable. 6 of them. Let's go through each one. Trick number 1, strike heel first. Watch someone who rarely falls walk across a room. Then watch someone who falls regularly do the same thing. One of the clearest differences, if you know what to look for, is where the foot makes contact with the ground first. People who fall tend to land flat-footed or sometimes toe first. It happens gradually without anyone realizing it. The step gets shorter, the foot doesn't lift as high, and instead of the heel making contact first, the whole foot just sort of arrives at the ground together. It feels normal, it feels fine, but what's actually happening is that the body is losing a critical fraction of a second of feedback about what the ground is doing. When you strike heel first, proper heel-to-toe walking, your heel hits, your body gets immediate information about the surface, and then your weight rolls forward in a controlled sequence. Flat tile, slightly sloped, gritty, wet. Your nervous system reads all of that through the heel before your full weight is committed. With a flat foot landing, that information arrives too late. Your full weight is already down. On a wet floor, on an unexpected threshold, on the edge of a step. That's the difference between catching yourself and not. So here's what to actually do. Consciously think about leading with your heel on every step. Not an exaggerated stomp, just a deliberate, clear contact point. Your heel hits first, your foot rolls forward, your toes push off. That sequence is what walking is supposed to look like, and most people over 60 have quietly lost it without ever noticing. Practice it right now if you want. Stand up, take 10 steps across the room, and focus on nothing except heel-first contact. You'll probably find it feels slightly odd at first. That strangeness is information. It tells you how far the pattern has drifted. Trick number 2, stop looking at your feet. Looking down at your feet feels like the careful, sensible thing to do, especially on stairs, especially on uneven ground. It feels like you're being attentive. What it's actually doing is making you less safe in 2 specific ways. The first one is mechanical. When you look down, your head drops, your shoulders round forward, and your weight shifts ahead of where your feet are. You're already slightly off balance before anything unexpected has happened. Every step you take with your eyes on the floor is a step you're taking with your weight leaning the wrong way. The second problem is about information. When your eyes are fixed on your feet, they're not scanning the path ahead. They're not seeing the wet patch 2 steps away, the slight ridge where 2 floor surfaces meet, the edge of the stair that's slightly different in depth from the others. By the time you're standing on those hazards, you're finding out about them through your feet, which is too late. The people who move confidently through their 70s and 80s keep their eyes up and ahead. They're looking at where they're going, not where they are. Their gaze is scanning 3 to 5 feet forward. Their body follows their eyes. Their weight stays centered, their posture stays upright, and their brain has a moment of preparation before each new surface arrives underfoot. On stairs especially, and this takes practice if you've spent years doing the opposite, look at the staircase as a whole, not at each individual step as your foot finds it. You know where the steps are. Trust your feet to find them while your eyes stay forward. One quick look to assess unfamiliar stairs before you start is smart. What you want to avoid is the habit of staring down at each foot as it lands, which locks your gaze, shifts your weight, and strips you of the forward information you actually need. Trick number 3, pause at transitions. This one is specific, and it matters more than almost anything else on this list. Most falls don't happen in the middle of a room. They happen at transitions. The bottom of the stairs, the top, the doorway between carpet and tile, the step down from a porch, the edge of a curb, the moment where one surface ends and something different begins. The reason is straightforward. Your body has adjusted to the surface you've been on. Your step length, your foot pressure, your speed, all of it calibrated without you thinking about it. When the surface suddenly changes, that calibration is briefly wrong. And if your weight is already moving forward at full momentum, you have almost no time to correct. The fix sounds almost too simple. Before you step off the bottom stair, stop for a half second. Before you move from the kitchen tile onto the back deck, pause at the threshold. Before you step off a curb, give yourself a beat. Just long enough for your eyes to register what's coming and for your body to reset before committing your weight. People who fall rarely give themselves this pause. People who don't fall do it almost automatically, the way you check your mirror before changing lanes. It becomes a reflex, but it starts as a conscious choice. On wet floors specifically, the pause matters even more. Water on a smooth surface can reduce traction dramatically, more than most people expect. Slow your approach, shorten the step, let your foot land deliberately rather than arriving at full momentum. Not a shuffle, just an intentional landing. Trick number 4, free your hands. Think about how you walk around your own home. When you move from room to room, are your hands in your pockets? Are you carrying something? Are you trailing your fingers along the wall as you go? None of those habits feel dangerous, but all of them tie up the same thing, your arms. Your arms are your body's built-in balance poles. When something disrupts your stability, they swing out automatically to counteract the shift and buy your legs time to catch up. It's a reflex, faster than conscious thought, one your nervous system has used since you were 2 years old. But it only works if your arms are free. Hands in pockets means they can't swing. Carrying something, even something light, means one arm is occupied and the reflex is half as effective. And reaching for the wall as you walk, while it feels like a safety measure, is actually your body quietly admitting it doesn't fully trust its own balance. That signal is worth taking seriously. Keep your arms swinging naturally as you walk. If you're carrying something that takes both arms, slow down more than usual or make 2 trips. And if you find yourself habitually touching walls as you move through your home, that's a sign to work on the underlying balance, not a sign to keep touching walls. I've spoken with people who led full physical lives. One man who walked 5 miles every morning, had done it for 30 years, was proud of it, and then fell getting out of the bath. Hip fracture, surgery, 6 weeks in a rehabilitation facility, And when he got home, the 5 miles was gone. Not because his body couldn't eventually recover, but because the fear had moved in. He started taking smaller steps, holding the walls, sitting down when he'd have stood before. Exactly the patterns that make the next fall more likely. He knew it, he couldn't stop it. By the time most people are sitting in that rehabilitation facility, the walking patterns that led them there had been drifting for years, quietly, without anyone naming them. Made now, before anything has happened, the decision to pay attention to how you move is worth more than any grab bar or non-sleep mat put in after the fact. So let's finish with the last two. Trick number 5. Walk with a longer stride than feels natural. When people start feeling less steady, the instinct is to shorten their steps. Small, careful movements. It feels like caution. It's actually the opposite. A slightly longer stride is more stable than a short, shuffling one. Longer steps keep your momentum moving forward in a controlled arc, which gives your balance something to work with. Short steps chop that arc into fragments, and each fragment is a separate moment where your weight is briefly unsupported and vulnerable to a sideways shift. Think of it like a bicycle. At speed, it's stable. The momentum keeps it upright. The same bike barely moving wobbles and tips. Your body works on a similar principle. There is a stride length somewhere between shuffling and striding that is genuinely more stable than the compressed walk most people default to when they start feeling cautious. When you're walking somewhere, down the hallway, across the parking lot, through the grocery store, consciously extend your stride by a few inches. Not an exaggerated lunge, just a little longer than the step your body chose on its own. You'll notice your posture straightens up, your arms swing more naturally, your pace evens out. That's your body finding its proper rhythm again. Do it deliberately for a few weeks and it starts to become automatic. Trick number 6. Start slowing down before you reach the stopping point. Most people, when they come to a stop, at the top of the stairs, at a curb, at the end of a hallway, slow down and stop in the same motion. Their momentum carries them slightly forward as they're trying to halt. Their weight tips ahead, and for a fraction of a second, they're managing a small stumble they don't even register. On a good day, on a familiar surface, the body corrects and nothing happens. But on a wet floor, or at the top of a flight of stairs, or on a sloped driveway, that forward tip has nowhere good to go. And the correction that usually happens automatically may not be fast enough. The people who move well into their 80s do something that's almost invisible unless you're watching for it. They decelerate a step or two before they reach the stopping point, so that by the time they arrive, the momentum is already gone. They land at stillness rather than fighting their own weight to get there. On stairs especially, before the top step, before the bottom step, give yourself 2 steps of runway to shed the speed. Start practicing it on your own staircase today. It takes about 3 days before it starts to feel natural, and then it just becomes how you use stairs. What all 6 of these have in common is that they aren't about strength or fitness. The people who rarely fall aren't more physically gifted. They've kept habits of movement that most people quietly let go of somewhere in their 50s and 60s without realizing it. Those habits can be rebuilt. The body responds. It takes longer than it did at 30, but it responds. Pick one thing from this list, the one you recognized in yourself or the one that surprised you most. Walk with it consciously for a week, then add the next. Patterns change through repetition, not through effort, and a week from now, you can already be moving differently. If this was useful, hit subscribe. There's a lot more on this channel worth your time. Move well, the rest follows.